Okay, so when you log into Tinkercad or when you've signed up to Tinkercad, you should see this screen. It might be slightly different to my screen. It might not say robotics context, and obviously on the left-hand side you'll have your own little account kind of username there. But if you want to get started quickly, all you need to do is you should be in designs. So check that you are in designs and not classes or tutorials. You're in designs, and click on create. And we want to create a 3D design. Okay, obviously you can have a go at circuit and code blocks another time, but that's great. But for this competition and for this tutorial, we're going to use a 3D design. So click on 3D design, and then Tinkercad. We'll think about it for a while, and then we'll be presented with this screen. Now this is your work plane. Work plane is a bit like a tabletop or a surface, and on that surface you are going to create your design. So let's have a look at a few of the features. First of all, it's probably best to use a mouse with this. Okay, so I've got a mouse here I'm going to be using, and the mouse controls are push the wheel forward, zoom in, and scroll the wheel back on your mouse. You will zoom out, so that's zoom in and zoom out. If you push your mouse wheel down, you can pan, which means that you can kind of move the screen left and right, up and down, and right click. If you right click and drag, then you can rotate, and you'll see not only will the work plane rotate, but also this little cube up here. You can grab the cube, we call it view cube. You can grab the cube and you can view things around like that as well. And you can also click on the cube and it will take you to various views, front, side, top, bottom, whatever you want, even on the corner, a 3D view. To get your view back to the starting point, you click on the little house on the left hand side, home view, and that takes you back to where you were. We've got zoom in and zoom out on there as well. We've also got fit all in view, which kind of, if you draw something, it fits it into the view. And then down here we've got switch to flat view, orthographic. So if we click on that and we click on the top, that gives us a view straight down onto the work plane, and if we go from the front, it takes us straight on. If we click that again, you can see that we go back to perspective view, and then when we click on on the top or the side, we don't quite get it looking exactly right down. If I click that back, look, you can see the difference. Perspective is obviously, as things get further away, they look smaller. You may have to click between those views just to make things make more sense. I'm going to work in the orthographic view, okay, so it just makes things a little bit easier for me. Click back at home, and there we are. So to draw in Tinkercad, we've basically got shapes, and we can pick from a range of shapes on the right hand side here, and to draw something we can drag the shape on. These two, the box and the cylinder here, where they are grey, they are there to allow you to create holes. I'll show you how to do that shortly. But to create a box, grab the box and drag the box onto the grid, onto the work plane. Okay, obviously the work plane has a grid. Now, when you drag a shape onto the work plane, it automatically sticks to the work plane. So that cube has been drawn on that surface, on that blue grid. Now, to edit the box, we can use the tabs here. We can also use the sliders here. So when you click on or select an object, then you get these sliders. We can also make that into a hole, and we can also change the color. Radius, that puts a radius on the edge, so if you wanted to round off the edges, in fact if you push all the way along, obviously it creates a sphere, but if we just tweak that up and down, you can see that the edges become rounded. Steps, I'm not sure steps will affect the cube, okay, but that will affect more complex shapes. And we've got the length. You can see the length change there, so we can actually type in what length we want if we wanted to do an accurate model. We've got the width and we've got the height. When you adjust the height, it goes upwards. It doesn't go below the work plane, it goes up. So obviously you can use that to create a shape or edit a shape. You can also click on the white tabs on each corner and you can pull those. You can obviously also type into, so if that's 47.15, it's a bit of a strange measurement. If we type in 47 and hit enter, then that changes that to 47, and we can change that one to 50. So you can edit the dimensions that way as well. We can obviously pull up and down as well, so you can do the same thing with that. If you click on the black dots, they do a similar thing. Obviously, if you wanted to make sure that you didn't distort the length of something, you just want to edit the width, and you could grab the black dots. The rotation tool appears when you hover over the little arrows there, and obviously you can drag and rotate. If I zoom out and do that, we can see the degrees at the top at which we were going to rotate it. If I start that again, 0, 22, and so on and so forth. And you can obviously highlight that, and you can change that by typing over it and hitting enter. So if you want to rotate something round, then you can do it that way. Obviously, if you want to undo, if you don't want to do that, then Control Z, or you can go back, undo, or you can go actually redo by clicking on the two little arrows here. If you want to move an object around in space, you can click on the little cone, the little black cone. You can move that up and down. And obviously what you can do, you can also just click on the shape and drag and move that around in all kinds of different directions. So if you wanted to position two objects together at different heights, then you can use that tool there. And obviously on the right hand side here, if I just show you that, on the right hand side here, if you move it up, look, it tells you how high it's moved off the top of the work plane. Obviously you can also type into that as well. To get it back down to 0, you can drag down to 0, or obviously just type in 0. So there's some basic movement tools, view tools that you can use. And obviously if you want to add another shape, you can drag another shape on. You can either drag it onto the work plane. If you drag it on top of another shape, then you see that it will jump up or you'll stick to the side. Look, so if you wanted an object to be on the side there or on the top, then all you have to do is drag it. You can even put it at an angle on the edge there. So if you wanted another shape there, then we can drag it on top there, and you can see that it creates, what it does is when you select the object, it tells you what surface that object is sitting on by this kind of pale blue work plane or surface. And obviously you can do the same things with that. If you want a hole, then what you can do is you can select the object, push it down into the other object. So in this case I'm pushing the cylinder into the cuboid, and then select hole. And then once you've got the hole in position, or once you've got the shape in position, then you can click and drag around both objects. So you click and drag around both objects to select both of them. So if the cylinder and the cuboid is selected, and then hit group or Control G, that's this little button here, and it will punch a hole into the block. So if you wanted to do windows, if you want to make holes of any kind, or if you wanted to edit a shape, for instance, if we wanted to punch a shape out of another shape, so if we make this cube a little bit bigger, if we wanted to push that into that corner there, and then if I make that into a hole, and then if I click and drag around both objects, and then I click on group, you can see that that object gets punched out of the corner there. It's quite handy for, if I just delete that, obviously if you want to delete something, you can select it and press delete on the keyboard. If we get some more complex shapes like an isohedron, if you wanted to create some kind of rocket shape using the isohedron like this, if you wanted it to have a flat bottom, then you can push that down below the work plane. So you push in that shape below the work plane, and then you can create a block. Make sure the block is bigger than the shape you've created. Move that down so that that sits on the work plane there. Now I'm going to make sure that it sits on the work plate. It's sitting on the work plate. If I click on the view cube there, then I can see that that shape is level with the work plane. And if I select the block and make it into a hole and zoom out and click and drag around the whole thing, and then click on my group tool here. Okay, so basically I've created a block, I've moved it down to 0 so it's below the work plane. I've clicked and dragged around both objects, and then I click on group. You can see that what it has done is it's cut off the piece of the isohedron that was below the work plane. It gives that a flat bottom. So if I wanted to now add some other features like wings or windows, then that's kind of my base shape for my rocket. And there you go. So those are the basics for you to play with. There'll be some more videos after this video on actually creating kind of, shall we say, very simple rockets. But if you have a go at creating, be creative, try and create something that's quite complex, more detailed the better. On basic shapes here, just a quick note, on basic shapes here you've also got all kinds of other things as well. I would make sure that you stick to the basic shapes. Okay, so with the basic shapes you have all of the shapes you probably need to create your rocket. Try not to add things like creatures and characters and vehicles and machines, because they probably won't print, they won't be able to be printed. So keep the structure fairly simple, but by adding more shapes, by adding details on the surface of your shapes, you should be able to create something that is capable of also being capable of being 3D printed. Okay, good luck.